Before you are the names of people who worked on Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Actually, they're flashing faster than the frame rate of the video, so really, you're only seeing a fraction of the names that brought you arguably the world's best anime. This list only scratches the surface of the sheer complexity of the anime production pipeline, and believe me when I tell you, the anime production pipeline is insane. It is immensely complicated, involving thousands of people, dozens of directors scattered all over the globe, and such tight deadlines that most anime start airing before episode 5 is even finished. It is a genuine miracle that anime even gets made, because I swear the stuff that goes on in these studios to bring us anime is more insane than anime itself. But before we take a plunge into the anime production rabbit hole, we first need to briefly look at how anime is made. This is what the anime production pipeline looks like. Let me give you a quick rundown of how things work. First, the publisher of a popular manga approaches a TV network, a music label, and a merch brand to together create a production committee. All members of the production committee pool money to fund an adaptation, and in exchange, they get a portion of the revenue the anime will generate. The committee picks an anime studio who will handle the process of making the anime, assign them a producer, and define the staff lineup. These are your chief directors, writers, and lead designers. But before things get out of hand, the producer hires a bunch of absolute troopers known as line producers. They will be like Peter Parker holding the entire production together to avoid a complete disaster. Now that the Avengers team is assembled, they outline literally the entire production plan from start to finish, and who's gonna be doing what. And like the producer getting line producers, the director gets episode directors. With that, it's time for pre-production. The writers try the don't use any tropes challenge impossible while creating the script. The designers create an encyclopedia of reference sheets for anything and everything that might appear on the screen. As soon as the script for episode 1 and initial designs drop, the director and episode director start making storyboards for episode 1. Storyboards are like manga, but most of them would not make it into Shonen Jump. They're really rough, man. Storyboards are composed of hundreds of individual scenes or cuts. Once the storyboard for episode 1 is finished, the episode director responsible goes and recruits animators and background artists. Animators either choose or get assigned scenes they will be animating. The episode director meets up with each one of them and gives instructions on how each cut should be animated. Hundreds, literally hundreds of animators start turning their scenes into rough animations. First, they combine multiple individual layers to create layout, make the characters from storyboards look like actual characters, make animatics, and then they make timing sheets. The resulting mess of drawings and spreadsheets will be the blueprint for all of the animation going forward. But before that, they go through a round of feedback. First, the episode director takes a look at the timesheet and tightens it up. Then, on a red piece of paper, he fixes any mistakes with lighting, composition, or the character itself. Now, the blueprint goes to the director, who on a blue piece of paper fixes up the composition and the vibes of the scene. Next, Sakuga, or animation director, on a yellow piece of paper fixes the proportions of your characters according to the design sheets. The chief Sakuga director looks at the fixes made by the Sakuga director and makes even more refined adjustments on a green piece of paper. Now, you get your blueprints back with all of the corrections, and you have to integrate these fixes to create what is known as Genga. Sometimes the original animators who made the blueprints are too busy to do Genga, so a different team of animators will do the tie-downs. In that case, this process is called second key animation, or Nigen, instead of Genga. This is how things are usually done. Anyway, after doing the corrections, the now tied down layouts and refined animations get sent back into the feedback loop. If the original layout artist or the Genga artist did a good job, there will be very few or no corrections at all. After implementing these last refinements, you get the final Genga. We'll get to what all these colors mean in a second, but for now you forge for a couple of tied down scenes, their timesheets and other relevant documents, and shove them all into a cut bag to send it off to a Doga team. The Doga team cleans everything up, does in-betweens according to the timesheet, and after a quick check from the Doga checker, the team sends off the documents off to colorists. Currently, the characters are rocking the LGBT flag coloring scheme, and according to these colors, the colorists will fill in values. Here's what they mean. Blue is for defining the edges of shadows. Red is for defining the edges of highlights. Purple is for double shadows. Yellow is for highlight fill. Light blue is for shadow fill. Pink is for hair shadow fill. Green, I have no idea, dude. I think you use it for black fill, but I'm not sure. Once the drawings have been cell painted, a cell painting checker will assess them for any mistakes. If everything is good, most of the animation should be basically finished. While all of this is happening, 3 other departments work alongside the animation department the whole time. The background department is making hundreds of backgrounds for every episode under their own hierarchy and supervision of the background director. Meanwhile, the underdogs of anime production, the 3D CG department, have their hands full aiding every other department. They help out key animators by creating props and sometimes create scene mockups. They help out VFX artists create the cool effects we see, and of course, they create textures and, well, models. Now, with the animation basically done, it's time to move on to post-production. The compositing team works closely with the series director to combine all of the backgrounds, animations, models, and effects and polish each scene individually. Now, what we have is a collection of polished scenes that work on their own, but each is only a few seconds long, so the editor takes all of the cuts and puts them together in order in an editing software. They also slightly adjust the timings of the scenes, extending some frames and trimming others. Visually, we have a nearly completed episode, but we haven't even touched upon sound. Now, music is pretty much always handled by a freelance artist or a music label and is done in parallel with animation and background and 3D CG. But voiceovers are usually performed under the supervision of the sound director right after the storyboards come out, although they can be done at basically any point in the production. Anyway, now audio engineers, again with the sound director, combine the edited animation with the score, sound effects, and voiceovers, mix the audio, and with a quick quality assurance check, this is the process of making just one episode. This is a stupidly simplified version of a stupidly complicated thing, but if you take a look at the playhead, you'll see we are nowhere near done. Because the hardest part about making an anime isn't the pipeline itself. It is what such a pipeline means. Remember, we are not making one episode. We are making 12. Maybe 24, and drawing, writing, making art, it takes time. Even if you give 2 most talented animators in the world $1 million, they wouldn't give you a masterpiece in 2 days. So the only way to go faster is to go wider, hire more people, subdivide each part of the process into hundreds of parts, and then find somebody, anybody, to do each one. As line producer, instead of just going through this diagram once, you are keeping track of hundreds upon hundreds of people simultaneously working on completely different parts of the whole piece. That's why if you look up the cast of your favorite anime on Anime News Network, you'll see an unending list of people. And yet, this is not enough. We can't just wait for one episode to finish to start another, so in the industry, everything is parallelized and overlapped. We have editors editing episode 2, writers scrambling to write episode 9, the animators grinding out episode 6, and the 3D CG guys, they have finished all of the models for episode 6. So now they're just helping out whoever's drowning the hardest. It's a beautifully orchestrated chaos. But big studios never work on just one project at a time. And with hundreds of people working on each episode, you would expect them to hire thousands of staff. But they simply can't. So they borrow, they outsource, they subcontract. In fact, big studios don't even animate most of the anime they're credited for. The dirty secret behind how your industry-leading dogs, your Mappas, your Wits, your A1s can pump out so many animes so consistently is the fact that they don't operate like animation studios. They operate like construction companies. See, just like a construction company, instead of doing all of the human labor-intensive tasks by themselves, anime companies delegate the vast majority of their production. If we take a look at Frieren on Anime News Network and scroll down all the way down to Japanese companies, we will see that every single stage of production was handled by not just one, but multiple studios, just to get the necessary production speed. But the craziest thing is that this process of outsourcing doesn't end with these companies. No. Even the studios you delegate just a small part of your production will themselves have to outsource to other studios, who in turn outsource a part of their work further. And yet, just one delay, one small delay in this huge tenderless system will lead to cascading delays along the entire pipeline. This is what it takes to handle the insane workload of making anime at the current pace. By far, the most important thing to investors isn't the quality or the hype that the anime will generate. No, the only thing that they expect from a studio is to finish on time. They put that before the quality, before the fan reaction, before anything. Whether or not a studio is capable of just spawning an anime in the given time frame is the most important metric by which most production committees measure studios. Imagine building a skyscraper with a unique artistic vision in a Category 5 hurricane with teams all over the world who don't even speak a word of your language working alongside you, and you can't postpone the date of opening, so there are already people walking around on the lower floors where you're still building, and you approach your head engineer, your big guy, and you're like, "Hey boss, so I just completed building floor 8 and it's coming together nicely. Can I take a look at the finished blueprint?" Finished blueprint? Yeah, like how will the building look like when it's finished? Like how are we gonna connect the elevators, the plumbing, you know, all that? Oh yeah, I don't know. I'm still working on the roof. What? I'm saying I'm still designing the tower, you know. I don't know what it's gonna look like. I am building in a Category 5 hurricane with 500 people alongside me at all times for a minimum pay, and you don't even know how the final building should look! Yes, so what happens when this huge web of thousands of freelancers and subcontractors gets squeezed into a time frame just a little too short? Well, you get Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. The JJK team started making the first episode in January, and it was scheduled to be released already in July of the same year. That's under 6 months to construct one of the world's most anticipated, most popular skyscrapers that is twice as many stories as regular ones. And so when their entire supply chain overloaded, when thousands of people across dozens of subcontractors and their subcontractors had their hands full, the episode directors, who keep in mind are often just trusted freelancers themselves, had to turn to literally hiring artists all over Twitter to get just a little bit of juice into the lemon squeezer.
I was approached by the director for episode 36, Okubo-san. We had been following each other on Twitter for quite a bit. He messaged me asking if I would be interested in participating in the show. I said yes, and then that led me to working on 3 episodes for the second season.
Another, much more severe example is Wonder Egg Priority, one of the most hyped up shows of its season. Being an anime original, the production staff had to come up with the entire story themselves. But due to the extremely fast-paced production schedule, they didn't have enough time to figure out the finer details of the script in the beginning. So, with the story tackling such difficult topics and the production schedule being so tight, the writers had themselves written into a corner amidst the anime airing. It's such a shame that big shows have to get squeezed into tight deadlines, that promising plot lines get crushed under time pressure, and that original ideas don't even get a shot at being adapted just to free up production queue for another trope-ridden generic isekai simply because they are safer investments. I believe the anime industry has so much more potential than this.
Which is why I come to you today with an ingenious solution on how animators and people and stakeholders can all be richer and happier. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Stakeholder, this is gonna be my investing strategy on how you will get more money, and that will grow the industry and in turn will make you more money. So here's the current model. We take money, then we invest it into isekai. Now, it doesn't really matter what kind of isekai that is. It can be some absolute cinema like ReZero, or it can be some actual garbage like the slime isekai. It doesn't really matter. And then hopefully what happens is after that anime is made, we make money, profit, money, ding, 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 money. Now this is good, alright? It gets the job done, it's cheap, it's reliable, but and I mean in general, this strategy, it's good. If you're a total loser, that is, this is the most cowardice thing I've ever seen in my entire life. We gotta step it up, gang. This is some pussy shit. Now, here's my proposal. Less bad anime and more good anime equals profit. Money, more money, more money, more money, more money, more money. But you might ask yourself, well, I mean, how do we define good anime, bad anime? It's too much thinking, right? How do we even approach this thing? And luckily for you, I have actually made a very simple diagram on how you, yes, you, can decide if an anime is good and worth adapting, or it's bad and it should not be adapted and it's probably gonna result in another slimy isekai or something, and it belongs here. Should you adapt it? Now, is the story an isekai? If yes, we must ask ourselves, does it have more than 4 words in the title? If the answer is yes, no, you should not adapt it, burn it with fire. Now, if the answer is no, we must ask ourselves, is it a male fantasy? And if the answer is yes, no, you should not adapt it. But if the answer is no, yes, you should adapt it. And if it's a female fantasy, then yeah, it's probably a low profit thing. But otherwise, yes, adapt it. It's good. It's good. Now, if it isn't an isekai, we need to look whether or not if it's a harem. Ooh. Only if it's Monster Girls. But what if it's not? What if it's a regular ass anime? What if it's not an isekai and not a harem? We should be good, right? Well, we actually need to ask the age-old question of, will there be a lot of teenage fangirls who will draw R34 of underage boys on X and thus spam my timeline, and I will not be able to even use that shithole of an app because I will see only R34 of underage boys in admittedly very, very high quality, but I really don't want to see that on my... If the answer is no, if there will be no fangirls doing that very questionable stuff, hell yeah, dude! Fucking adapt it already. What are you doing? Why are you even watching me, dude? Adapt it now. Do it. But what if the answer is yes? Yes, there will be actually a lot of teenage girls who will do that. Well, I mean, you already know the answer. Absolutely, yes, do it now. Imagine how much money this will make. Imagine the drama, imagine the hype, imagine the controversy surrounding it. It will be a PR disaster, don't get me wrong, but money, ding ding ding, money, do it. And ultimately, you might ask the question of why? Why go through all of this? Why not just stick with isekai? Why not chase that easy bag? Well, first of all, and most importantly, you'll become a giga chat. You will be respected. You will even keep your hairline. Secondly, and now hold on to your socks, you will make more money per IP, thus offsetting the high cost of production. Now, this leads to a third reason. More fans. People will naturally be more invested in anime as a whole, just because there is so much more high quality production going on in here. Now, all of this leads to point number 4. More money in the long term. People will become more invested in anime as a genre. It will become associated with good things. People will tend to stick to it. It will not be a phase. Thus, you just make more money in the long term. They spend more, they stick more, everyone is happier, you're the giga chat, more money. I rest my case. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It definitely did not take 2 hours of recording in the middle of the night to do this.
So far, I have only covered the perspective of the anime studio and completely ignored the notoriously bad animator situation. Many animators just barely manage to make a living. This is because animators don't have a fixed salary. Instead, they get paid per cut. Usually you get around 3 to 8,000 yen per cut, but this entirely depends on your skill. So most of the time, life isn't half bad if you're a very skilled animator, since you produce cuts faster and get 2 to 3 times as much per cut as others. But for the vast majority of beginner to intermediate animators, making enough to survive is a struggle. Since you get paid less per scene, you have to just physically take on more scenes. And often, since you're simply slower than people with 10 years of experience, you spend more time per scene. But the real kicker is the deadline crunches. That's when both pros and beginners, freelancers and directors get thrown under the same bus. One delay on their end, be it an episode director who turned up 10 minutes late or a single pro animator unable to manage triple their usual workload, will lead to cascading delays for every other episode. Yes, the conditions depend heavily on studios, but if we are talking about your large production studios like A1, MAPPA or Madhouse, the ones that get the fame for all the best shows, despite the insane amounts of people involved in their production, despite the insane webs of contractors, crunches are pretty much a given. We kinda treat anime as if it was made by a single entity, some monolith responsible for the whole thing, the studio, or the animators, or the producers. But if nothing else, I hope this video showed you the sheer amount of work required to make anime. That behind each minor stroke on every shot, someone somewhere on this globe made a conscious decision to put it there. This doesn't mean we can't be objectively critical of the medium, but when we do, we have to consider just how much is going on in these studios at all times and how little freedom they have to extend production time. In most cases, it's not the individual writers, directors, or even producers that are responsible for production crashes, but people at the very top. Anime, like any art form, deserves critique, but for me, learning how it's made me respect the amount of work behind even the most dog water of anime. I just can't stop thinking about the thousands of hours, hundreds of animators and all of the people all around the world who give their best, all to bring us this truly incredible piece of shit isekai.